We've all heard stories about those powerful neighbors. People who'll stop at nothing to control the neighborhood, impose their rules, and make life difficult for anyone who doesn't fall in line. But the story I'm about to share with you, it's nothing like what you've seen before. This is a tense showdown between Ethan, an ordinary guy with a priceless family legacy, and Karen, the powerful woman who runs the HOA and is willing to do whatever it takes to seize control, even if it means bending HOA rules that don't even apply yet, resorting to fraud, and spreading lies. Sometimes in life, you feel like you're standing alone against the whole world. That's exactly how Ethan felt when he got a violation notice from Karen, the HOA president. The letter was cold, harsh, and full of pressure, claiming he was breaking multiple HOA rules and facing thousands of dollars in fines if he didn't comply. But here's the strange part: the rules Karen cited were actually put in place years after Ethan's family cabin was built. Right from the start, Ethan sensed something was off. Those regulations couldn't possibly be applied retroactively, yet Karen was using them as a weapon to push him while the land his family had called home for decades. He began examining every clause, every date, and realized Karen was playing an unfair game to manipulate power. Each line in that notice wasn't just a warning, it was a calculated threat meant to make him back down. The familiar image of his family cabin suddenly felt heavy with more than just memories. It wasn't just a house, it was a symbol of resilience, standing strong against time and change. But now it was under attack by a carefully crafted scheme, with rules twisted to serve selfish interests. Ethan knew he couldn't stay silent. He wasn't just fighting for a building, he was fighting for justice for his family's legacy. What shocked him most? Karen, the person many saw as just a strict HOA leader, was actually abusing her power to threaten residents like him. Legal threats, misapplied HOA rules, it was all part of a bigger plan to take over the neighborhood. And right then, Ethan made a decision. He wouldn't let those letters break him. To protect his home and his family's honor, he had to expose the truth. And his journey toward justice, no matter how tough, was just beginning. Ethan had no idea that behind Karen's curtain of power lurked another key player. Clayton Morrison, the building inspector hired to evaluate the homes in the neighborhood. From the very first encounter with Morrison, Ethan sensed something deeply off about the man. Morrison wasn't an ordinary inspector who followed proper procedures. His cold, sharp demeanor and pressuring way of speaking immediately put Ethan on edge. But what truly raised Ethan's suspicion were the inspection reports Morrison submitted. Reports riddled with severe issues that even an independent engineer Ethan later hired completely refuted. During one random inspection at Ethan's cabin, Morrison deliberately exaggerated minor wear and tear into dangerous hazards that threatened life and property. The photos he took for the reports were carefully edited to highlight tiny cracks, peeling paint, and aging pipes, turning normal signs of aging into catastrophic red flags. This was no longer an objective inspection, it was a carefully staged campaign meant to sow fear and pressure residents, especially Ethan. Ethan started noticing other strange signs. Morrison's signature on documents was inconsistent, sometimes hurried and sloppy, other times crisp and precise. This made Ethan wonder, was someone forging Morrison's signature to fabricate inspection reports? The suspicion deepened when Ethan discovered a suspicious connection between Morrison and Karen. Through casual conversations with neighbors, he learned that Karen frequently communicated with Morrison by phone and email. In many messages Ethan obtained, Karen wasn't just requesting technical inspections, she was instructing Morrison to find faults that would force families to pay hefty repair bills. Morrison was essentially Karen's pawn in a well-orchestrated scheme. One late night, Ethan secretly followed Morrison leaving a private meeting at Karen's house. They exchanged thick envelopes, possibly filled with documents or money. It felt like Ethan was witnessing a perfectly staged crime drama unfolding in the quiet neighborhood. Morrison's anxiety and near panic became evident whenever Ethan approached him about the inspection reports. On one occasion, Morrison coldly warned Ethan to stop digging into things that aren't your business. His gaze icy and voice threatening, Ethan realized this was no simple dispute between a resident and the HOA. He was facing a powerful alliance. Karen, the HOA president, and Morrison, the gatekeeper of inspection reports, working together to intimidate and coerce residents into submission. What was most chilling was the sophistication of their plan. They exploited complex HOA rules combined with fabricated inspection reports and legal tricks to apply maximum pressure on dissenters. Their ultimate goal: force residents to sell their homes or lose control over their properties, expanding Karen's grip on power. But Ethan refused to back down. Though isolated and threatened, he resolved to fight back. He began gathering evidence, recording phone calls, photographing forged reports, and connecting with neighbors who'd been victimized by Morrison's false inspections. One day, Ethan received an anonymous email from someone claiming to be an insider whistleblower. The sender revealed Morrison had been repeatedly forced to sign knowingly false reports, all under Karen's direction. The message warned Ethan to be extremely careful. The power wielded by Karen and Morrison was far greater than he'd imagined. From that moment on, Ethan understood this was no longer just a battle to save his home. It was a fight against corruption, abuse of power, and the destruction of trust in the community his family had built over generations. On sleepless nights, looking at photos of his grandfather in the cabin, symbols of family and resilience, Ethan knew he couldn't quit. He had to dig deeper, expose the truth, even if it meant facing unforeseen dangers. Ethan's journey to confront Karen and Morrison had only just begun, and he was ready to play his hand. As Ethan dove deeper into the tangled web of deceit spun by Karen and Morrison, he uncovered a startling connection through a series of text messages and emails. These communications revealed a level of coordination and manipulation far beyond what he had imagined. Karen was not merely directing Morrison to find faults, she was orchestrating a campaign of false accusations to terrorize homeowners into compliance. One message stood out, a text from Karen instructing Morrison explicitly to find asbestos in Blackwood's cabin no matter what. The sheer brazenness of the order shocked Ethan. Asbestos was a serious allegation, one that could trigger expensive and disruptive remediation requirements, potentially forcing him to sell the family property. But when Ethan arranged for an independent environmental expert to conduct a thorough inspection, the results were clear. There was no asbestos present in the cabin. This independent inspection dealt a severe blow to Karen and Morrison's fabricated narrative. The report was comprehensive and backed by laboratory tests, directly contradicting the false claims Morrison had made. Yet, despite this evidence, Karen pushed ahead with her campaign, confident in the power of fear and misinformation. Ethan realized the battle was not only about facts but about controlling the story. Karen was manipulating public perception through selective evidence and staged presentations, intending to isolate him socially and legally. The more Ethan uncovered, the more dangerous the situation became. Morrison's role was critical. His falsified reports gave Karen's accusations a veneer of official legitimacy. Without those tainted inspections, Karen's threats would crumble. That's why Ethan focused on gathering proof of Morrison's involvement in the conspiracy. With the independent environmental report in hand, and copies of the damning messages between Karen and Morrison, Ethan prepared to expose the truth. But he also understood that simply presenting facts might not be enough. The situation was charged with emotion, community loyalties, and the long shadows of history tied to his family's legacy. Between the mounting pressure from the HOA and the whispers among neighbors swayed by Karen's rhetoric, Ethan felt the weight of isolation creeping in. Yet, the evidence he had collected was a lifeline, a way to pierce through the fog of lies. This phase of Ethan's journey marked a turning point from passive defender to active challenger. He wasn't just protecting a building, he was fighting a corrupt system built on fear, deception, and abuse of power. The stakes were high, and the path ahead was fraught with risk, but Ethan was ready. Every piece of evidence, every contradiction he exposed chipped away at Karen's carefully constructed facade. The truth was gaining momentum, and the quiet man once underestimated was beginning to become the voice of reason and justice in Maplewood Heights. As the legal and emotional battle intensified, Ethan decided to dig into his family's past, hoping to uncover secrets that could turn the tide in his favor. He spent long hours in his grandfather's archives, a man who had always been a symbol of resilience and integrity in the Maplewood Heights community. The old documents, letters, and journals carefully preserved in a sturdy wooden cabinet slowly revealed surprising truths. One of the most critical discoveries was a set of legal papers relating to land ownership and HOA bylaws dating back decades. Among these was a clause that Karen and the current board members seemed completely unaware of. A regulation regarding the rightful succession of the HOA presidency, meticulously recorded and safeguarded by Ethan's grandfather. This document proved that Ethan was the legitimate HOA president according to the community's original rules. But it didn't stop there. Ethan also found legal agreements his grandfather had made with respected local attorneys to protect the family and the community against disputes like the one unfolding now. This made Ethan realize his grandfather had foreseen such challenges and had prepared legal safeguards to defend their legacy. Additionally, he uncovered a heartfelt handwritten letter from his grandfather, addressed to Ethan's mother before his passing. It stressed the importance of perseverance and integrity, urging the family never to lose their core values no matter the hardships. This letter was not just a personal message, but a guiding light for Ethan's upcoming struggle. Holding this evidence in his hands, Ethan felt a renewed strength rise within him. This was no longer just a fight to save a house. It was about preserving the spirit and values of an entire community. He knew that proving his legitimate presidency and presenting these legal documents would give him a powerful advantage against Karen, who was using every trick to cling to power. But Ethan also understood that Karen wouldn't give up easily. She might try to sabotage the evidence or use new tactics to block him. So, he had to be extremely careful with how he handled and disclosed these documents. He decided to make copies of the entire archive, store the originals securely in a bank-safe deposit box, and give copies to his attorney as insurance against the worst. At the same time, Ethan began planning his next move, leveraging this evidence not just to expose the truth, but to reclaim control of the HOA and restore fairness to the community. He also thought about reconnecting with board members and residents, those who had been manipulated by Karen and Morrison, but didn't yet know the full story. This discovery marked a major turning point in the story. From feeling powerless and confused, Ethan now had powerful tools to confront the corrupt forces. But with it came a heavy responsibility: to uphold his grandfather's legacy and protect the community from those who would exploit authority for personal gain. Ethan's story had evolved from a personal battle into a symbol of the fight to preserve values, justice, and tradition in a world full of challenges. As he looked out the window, the sunset casting warm light on the familiar cabin, he knew he was ready to face the next chapters of this difficult journey. Ethan's investigation soon uncovered a tangled web of deceit far deeper than he had imagined. By carefully examining financial statements, board meeting minutes, and confidential emails, he began to piece together a pattern of fraud orchestrated by Karen and Morrison. The more he dug, the more chilling the picture became. Karen had been exploiting her position as HOA president to authorize expenses that never benefited the community, but instead funneled money into personal accounts and shady contractors connected to Morrison. There were suspicious payments for inspection services that didn't match any legitimate work done. In several reports, signatures appeared forged or inconsistent, suggesting deliberate falsification to cover their tracks. One document stood out, a fake invoice from a consulting firm that, upon further research, turned out to be nothing more than a shell company tied to Karen's attorney, the same lawyer handling her personal legal troubles. This was not a mere coincidence but part of a calculated scheme to misuse HOA funds for personal gain. Worse yet, many residents who had been pressured to comply with urgent repair orders now came forward to admit that their homes had been subjected to fraudulent inspections, leading to unnecessary, costly renovations. The impact was devastating. Families strained financially, with some forced to take out loans based on fabricated risks. Ethan felt a heavy weight as he read through the statements from affected neighbors. Mrs. Rodriguez's tearful account of how they drained their savings to fix a septic system that independent experts later declared sound struck a chord deeply. The Thompson family's story was equally heartbreaking. A roof replaced under false pretenses, draining funds meant for their daughter's college tuition. With mounting evidence, Ethan realized the scale of the corruption was extensive and premeditated. Karen's reign wasn't just about control, it was about profiting at the expense of the very community she was supposed to serve. Morrison, too, was deeply complicit, crafting false reports and intimidating residents to maintain their grip on power. Determined to expose them, Ethan meticulously organized all evidence into a comprehensive dossier. He documented forged signatures, traced illegal financial transfers, and collected testimonials from victims who trusted him to bring justice. He knew this evidence could topple Karen and Morrison, but it also painted a target on his back. Aware of the risks, Ethan took precautions, backing up files securely, sharing copies with his lawyer, and reaching out to honest board members quietly to build alliances. He understood this fight would be fierce, with Karen likely using every trick to discredit and silence him. This phase of the battle was as much about courage as it was about facts. Ethan's resolve hardened as he realized this wasn't just about reclaiming a family legacy. It was about protecting an entire neighborhood from manipulation and deceit. The stage was set for a showdown that would change Maplewood Heights forever. But before that, Ethan needed to prepare his case carefully and rally the community, ensuring the truth would come to light in a way that no lie or intimidation could ever undo. The emergency HOA meeting was set, and the atmosphere in Maplewood Heights was thick with tension. News about the financial scandals and forged inspection reports had spread like wildfire, drawing neighbors to the community center with a mix of eagerness and apprehension. Everyone wanted to hear the truth firsthand, yet no one knew exactly what to expect from the coming showdown between Ethan and Karen. Despite the pressure, Ethan remained calm and composed. He knew this was the pivotal moment where all the weeks of preparation would be put to the test. Arriving early, he carried a thick folder filled with every piece of evidence he had gathered. All eyes turned toward him as he entered the room. whispers rippling through the crowd. Karen appeared shortly after, dressed impeccably in a navy blazer, her hair perfectly styled. She stood confidently at the podium, her icy gaze daring anyone to question her authority. She had prepared a powerful presentation, using carefully edited photos and carefully chosen figures to paint Ethan's cabin as a dire threat to the neighborhood. Karen opened with fairy declarations, using technical jargon to prey on the community's fears. What cannot ignore the serious safety risks, electrical issues, foundation problems, and septic system failures that endanger our lives. The photos she displayed were edited to exaggerate minor cracks, peeling paint, and aging pipes, making every flaw seem catastrophic. Morrison appeared beside her, oozing confidence as the building inspector. He delivered his report with firm certainty, emphasizing evidence of severe violations, including asbestos, a claim that sent a ripple of fear through the room. The partnership between Karen and Morrison seemed unstoppable, a united front. But just as Karen called for an emergency vote to seize full control over Ethan's property, Ethan rose, clutching his folder tightly. His voice was calm but firm. There's a major problem with this meeting. The evidence I'm about to present will prove that all accusations made by Ms. Karen and Mr. Morrison are fabricated. The room fell silent instantly, every eye fixed on Ethan as he meticulously laid out the facts: forged signatures, doctored inspection reports, illegal financial transactions, and testimonials from victimized neighbors. He handed out copies of the documents, turning doubt into undeniable proof. Karen's confidence faltered, her expression shifting from assured to panic as her scheme unraveled before the crowd. Morrison's composure cracked as he glanced around nervously, searching for an escape. Some neighbors started demanding explanations, their voices sharp and unforgiving. Ethan ended his presentation with a powerful statement: I am the rightful HOA president, as established by the bylaws left by my grandfather. Every action taken by Ms. Karen and Mr. Morrison is an abuse of power and fraud. This meeting is hereby adjourned pending a full legal investigation. Chaos erupted. Cheers of relief mixed with stunned silence. Reporters rushed to capture this historic moment. And the image of Karen, once the neighborhood's most feared authority, standing frozen in disbelief, became the symbol of a corrupt reign crumbling to dust. Though Ethan felt the wave of community support, he understood the road ahead remained treacherous. The fight against corruption was just beginning, and he would need all his strength and resolve to protect Maplewood Heights from tyranny and deceit. The fallout from the explosive HOA meeting was swift and far-reaching. Within hours, news of Karen's exposed corruption and Morrison's fraudulent inspections spread throughout Maplewood Heights like wildfire. The community, once shackled by fear and misinformation, began to demand justice, and they found an unexpected champion in Ethan. Karen's empire of intimidation and deceit began to crumble. The HOA board, now fully aware of the deception, acted decisively. They suspended Karen from her position as vice president and called for a thorough audit of all financial records. Mrs. Patterson, the treasurer who had quietly raised concerns earlier, became a crucial ally, assisting Ethan in uncovering a tangled web of embezzlement, unauthorized payments, and forged documents. Families who had been forced to pay for unnecessary repairs and legal fees came forward, sharing heartbreaking stories of financial hardship and betrayal. The Rodriguez family revealed they had taken out loans to cover septic system replacements based on falsified reports. The Thompson family spoke of using their daughter's college fund to fix a roof that never needed replacing. Each testimony fueled the growing outrage and resolve within the community. Meanwhile, Morrison's erratic behavior escalated under the pressure. His late-night visits to shredding trucks and secret meetings with Karen became harder to conceal. Facing mounting evidence, Morrison's legal counsel approached Ethan with a plea-deal offer: full cooperation in exchange for leniency. Morrison's confession laid bare the full extent of the conspiracy, implicating Karen as the mastermind behind the fraudulent inspection reports and financial misconduct. Criminal investigations were launched. The district attorney's office filed charges of embezzlement, conspiracy, and falsifying official documents. Civil lawsuits piled up as victims sought restitution and punitive damages for the emotional and financial toll. The state bar suspended Karen's law license pending disciplinary action, and her homeowner's insurance company dropped her coverage, leaving her exposed to personal liability. As the legal battles raged, the community's spirit began to heal. New bylaws were implemented to prevent future abuses: mandatory annual independent audits, board approval for all expenditures over a certain amount, and strict term limits for officers. Residents organized community events, focusing on rebuilding trust and fostering genuine connections rather than enforcing fear. Karen's house quietly went on the market, selling below market value as legal fees and restitution demands drained her finances. Morrison lost his city job and faced permanent disqualification from future government work. His professional certifications were revoked, forcing him to start anew far away from Maplewood Heights. The transformation was remarkable. Where once suspicion and silence reigned, now neighbors smiled and helped one another. The very Facebook group Karen had used as a weapon turned into a platform for support and celebration. The shadow of corruption lifted, replaced by a renewed commitment to transparency and mutual respect. Ethan, though exhausted, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The fight had been brutal, but justice had prevailed, not just through courts and paperwork, but through the power of community standing together against those who abuse power. Life in Maplewood Heights, after months of turmoil, finally turned a hopeful new page. Ethan, who bravely stood up against corruption and abuse of power, was no longer just the protector of his family's legacy. He had become the community's guiding spirit. He understood that this battle wasn't merely a legal fight, it was a profound lesson about perseverance, truth, and humanity. His grandfather's cabin, once just a symbol of family tradition, was now fully restored and preserved as a true testament to the past. More than just a renovated building, it became the community's gathering place, a hub for craft workshops, knowledge sharing, and, most importantly, connecting neighbors. Every corner held stories of resilience, loyalty, and unwavering faith. The community's transformation was clear through initiatives sparked by its residents. Mrs. Chen, newly elected HOA vice president, organized regular meetings to ensure transparency and open dialogue. Mr. Rodriguez, using his accounting expertise, established a clear and rigorous financial system that prevented any future corruption or mismanagement. Karen and Morrison's story served as a stark warning about the dangers of power abuse and the vital need for oversight in every organization. Though they had left Maplewood Heights, their shadow remained, a constant reminder of justice and community unity. Another bright chapter emerged with the arrival of the Martinez family, a young military couple with 3 children and a disabled veteran grandfather. When the community learned that Karen's former house was for sale, Ethan and neighbors united to help them settle in. Wheelchair ramps were built following the traditional methods taught by Ethan's grandfather. Repair and landscaping projects were organized, and neighborhood events welcomed the family warmly. The day Karen returned to collect some belongings, she witnessed a community alive with cooperation and warmth, a stark contrast to the fear and control she once wielded. As their eyes met briefly, something in her seemed to shift. Perhaps for the first time, she understood that true power comes not from domination, but from trust and unity. Finally, Ethan uncovered another invaluable legacy left by his grandfather, a mineral rights deed granting potential natural gas resources beneath their land, valued at over $200,000. This final safeguard was beyond Karen's reach, securing the family's future and the community's stability. Ethan's story and the rise, fall, and renewal of Maplewood Heights prove that power without principle is temporary, but communities built on respect and care endure forever. It reminds us that those who quietly and steadfastly protect true values often hold the greatest strength, changing the world not through force, but through lasting love. As night fell over Maplewood Heights, Ethan sat on his porch watching children play, his heart full of peace and hope. Knowing that his grandfather's legacy was not just the cabin, but the strong, loving community they had rebuilt together. Ethan's story teaches us a powerful lesson about perseverance and justice. When facing corruption and abuse of power, it's easy to feel isolated. But integrity and belief in what's right can help us overcome even the toughest challenges. Ethan didn't just protect his family home, he restored trust and unity within the Maplewood Heights community. The biggest message is that power without principle is temporary, while communities built on respect and honesty endure. Ethan's fight proves that patience, careful preparation, and courage can defeat those who abuse authority. If you've ever faced people trying to impose control or manipulate you, remember that patience and truth are your strongest weapons. Justice will ultimately prevail, and communities founded on care and compassion will last. Ethan's journey reminds us that true strength comes from unity and standing firm for the values that matter most in life. Don't forget to hit that like button to show your support and help this story reach more people who need to hear it right now. Every like is a powerful encouragement for me to keep sharing meaningful, inspiring stories like this, reminding us all that justice and perseverance truly matter. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, experiences, and feelings about standing up against injustice in your own communities. Whether it's a story, advice, or simply words of encouragement, your voice can inspire others and create a ripple of hope. If this story touched your heart, please share it with friends, family, or anyone who might need a boost of strength and faith to overcome their challenges. And finally, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss the next heartfelt story, where we celebrate the power of resilience, justice, and human kindness. Thank you so much for being part of this journey. Your support lights up every story and fuels the passion to keep telling them.